Why do so many people claim to have consciousness? The year is 2007. We have technology enabling us to look inside the brain, to analyze it at whatever level we choose. What we find does not bode well for the consciousness myth. That's right. When we look inside the brain, we do not find fairies or trolls, and we certainly do not find consciousness. One would think this data would come as a blow to the consciousness faithful. However, as tends to be the case with all irrational beliefs, the believer sticks with his dogma. If you ask how this thing they call consciousness can manage to escape observation, they say it emerges. Not a very adequate explanation for the rational thinker. If you ask how they know it emerges, their answers get even worse. Do they observe it emerging? No. Do they have any evidence at all that it emerges? No. Why do they claim at all that it emerges or exists? They don't know. So, essentially, we have a whole lot of people who believe that this thing exists, yet they have no idea what it is, they've never seen it, and they have no evidence. They have no reason to make the claim, yet they make the claim anyway. How do we explain this irrational behavior? Well, the brain isn't always rational. At times it makes hardwired claims that defy logic and observation. For instance, there are people with phantom limb syndrome. The brain sees that there is no limb, yet it still says that there is. Those with phantom limb syndrome face a struggle between the hardwired claim they are making and the rational analysis that directly contradicts that claim. Consciousness is like a phantom limb. It doesn't actually exist, but the brain keeps insisting that it does. So the question is, what could have happened to cause the brain to hardwire such a response? The brain is very protective of its claim of consciousness, as witnessed by the adherence of believers, which should be our first clue that it is an issue of evolution.
First, we must understand how a hardwired claim may have a selective advantage even though the claim itself is hollow and meaningless. Let's look at the most likely scenario. Early hominids were benefiting greatly from the ever-evolving intelligence capacity of their brains. This intelligence allowed them to ask questions and seek answers creatively. There was a strong selective advantage to intelligence. There was, however, a problem. Unlike any of the animals previous, hominids started challenging their instinct with their intellect. They started asking what the point was to life. This was a waste of time and energy. The hominid brain became indifferent to living. So the problem for evolution was this: how to keep the hominid working towards survival while at the same time increasing in intelligence. The answer evolution came up with is a brilliant one. Hominids evolved a hardwired response. The hominid came to believe that something very important existed inside him that needed his protection. Of course, this thing did not actually exist, but it gave the hominid brain a reason to survive. Over time, this false belief of the hominid brain became set in stone, as it were. The complete lack of evidence for the existence of this thing, which has since come to be known as consciousness, did not matter since it was hardwired and the hominid automatically accepted it.
To this day, humans still accept it automatically with no evidence, rather than critically analyzing it. This is why they can look into a brain and see that consciousness is not there, yet they will still insist that it is. Of course, I should qualify that, adding that since they are totally unable to explain or define consciousness, they have given us no indication as to what we are looking for. They can't even explain why they believe it exists, let alone why anyone else should believe it. The rational answer is that we should not.